The silence is deafening. For the first time since Caitlin Clark set foot on a WNBA court, the Indiana Fever were forced to play without her. And what did the league look like? Bleak. Bleaker than anyone wants to admit. If you tuned into that Fever versus Dream matchup, you witnessed what can only be described as a horror film in 4 quarters, a 77-58 drubbing that exposed every crack, every inconsistency, and every dependency that's been swept under the rug since Clark's arrival. Let's get this out of the way. Without Clark, the Fever are a bottom-tier team, period. And that's no slight to Aaliyah Boston or Kelsey Mitchell. It's just the truth. Clark's absence not only strips Indiana of playmaking, leadership, and spacing, but it also robs the entire WNBA of the momentum it desperately needs right now. Attendance, viewership, headlines, all of it took a nosedive the moment the quad strain benched the league's most marketable star. It's not just about how she plays, it's what she represents: hope, relevance, and most importantly, profit. Before we move on, make sure to dunk that subscribe button so we can keep you updated with all the latest news surrounding the WNBA. So here's the uncomfortable truth the WNBA doesn't want to say out loud. Clark isn't just a rookie, she's the product. Without her, everything feels slower, grayer, emptier. She's the reason for the ESPN slots, the sellouts, and the NBA eyes on this league for the first time in years. It's not just about growing the game anymore, it's about survival. And right now, we're seeing what happens when that lifeline is temporarily unplugged.
Yes, I know I'm going to get fined for this, probably, but we still appreciate the honesty.
But we do love it.
Let's get to Caitlin Clark since we're in Indy. She's been out with the quad strain since playing the Liberty. That was back on May the 24th. Now, head coach Stephanie White announced that Clark is out for tonight's game in Atlanta, but a return is hopefully coming soon. So let's bring in our reporter, Alexa Philippou, who's covering the Fever for us here. Alexa, do we have any idea when we could see Caitlin back on the floor?
Well, Malika, this was a big kind of progression this week because White said that Clark is ready to start ramping back up towards game action.
Let's stop pretending like this is just a normal injury. If Caitlin Clark misses another week, the Fever might find themselves not only sliding in the standings, but completely sliding out of relevance. Her mere presence dictates how opponents guard the perimeter. She stretches defenses. She forces matchups. She breathes life into an offense that, let's be real, dies without her. What happened against the Dream was a basketball funeral. The Fever scored 15 points over an entire second half. Let that sink in. 15. Meanwhile, Kelsey Mitchell went 5 for 16, a performance that would be forgettable on any other night if it weren't for how often she's repeated it lately. The worst part? These are supposed to be the veterans stepping up, the players who said they were more than just Clark's supporting cast. But it's not just on the players. Let's talk about Stephanie White, a coach who looked completely overwhelmed. No answers for the Dream's run. No adjustments, no urgency. Just vibes. Bad ones. At some point, we have to start asking the uncomfortable question, is this a coaching issue too? Because Clark can't mask this forever.
All right, black and white sports supporters. Well, where in the hell do I begin? I mean, honestly, I really don't know where to begin. Right now, it is 74-56, 103 left. The Indiana Fever getting dismantled. One of the biggest stats I saw that just had me shaking my head was the fact that they had scored 15 points in the entire second half.
Stephen A. Smith said it best. The WNBA needs Clark more than anyone wants to admit. And whether it's her quad or her critics, the spotlight remains fixated. The numbers don't lie. She leads the league in assists, is top 5 in scoring, and every arena she plays in is packed to the rafters. But her absence now gives the league a dangerous opportunity to show how little of that energy transfers when she's not around. The league is navigating a paradox. On one hand, they resent what Clark represents, a white player drawing media dollars and national buzz in a league that has long felt ignored despite its talent. On the other, they need her for ratings, for respect, for visibility. Without her, it's a void. That's not just speculation, that's business. Clark's injury is exposing two realities at once. One, how little depth the Fever have behind her, and two, how fragile the WNBA's momentum really is. For all the talk of growing the game, Clark is the game right now, and the silence in her absence is deafening.
Let's get to the WNBA, where the Indiana Fever announced that star Caitlin Clark will be out at least 2 weeks with a left quad strain. Clark reported some pain in her leg Saturday after the team's loss to the New York Liberty. She subsequently underwent an MRI and was diagnosed with the strain on Monday. Clark was the WNBA's Rookie of the Year last season and a first-team All-WNBA selection. So far, she's averaging 19 points and a league-leading 9.3 assists.
Let's dig even deeper. This isn't just about marketing or numbers. It's about resentment. There's a growing rift in the W, not between fans and players, but between the old guard and the new face. Caitlin Clark, whether intentionally or not, represents a storm of change, one that a lot of people in the league aren't prepared for. They don't hate her. They hate what she stands for: attention, privilege, and instant stardom. But here's the thing. Clark didn't choose this. She didn't write the TV deals. She didn't beg to be the poster child. She just balled out. In college. In the pros. Game after game. The league didn't crown her. The fans did. And now that she's temporarily gone, the ugly side of the discourse bubbles to the surface. The C, ratings are fine without her. The she's not even that good. The constant comparisons and coded shade. It's all noise. And it's proof that Clark's influence runs deeper than a stat sheet. She's disrupted the ecosystem, challenged the old dynamics. And that's why her absence doesn't just hurt Indiana. It rattles the foundation of the entire league.
Nor am I going to take my eyes off of what transpires with the WNBA over the next 2 weeks while Caitlin Clark is out with the quad strain. And the reason why is because, let me tell you something right now. I'm not going to go to word hate. I'm not going to be out there like RG3 was saying that Angel Reese hates Caitlin Clark or other players hate Caitlin Clark. But I will say this. I don't think it's specific about Caitlin Clark. I think it's what Caitlin Clark represents.
When Angel Reese gets hate, we talk about race. When Caitlin Clark gets hate, we pretend it doesn't exist. Why? Because the narrative is easier to digest when we ignore the complexities. Clark's explosion into the spotlight didn't just disrupt basketball. It disrupted a fragile cultural balance. And now that she's out, that tension has nowhere to go but online. This league should be rallying. Instead, it feels fractured. Pundits and players alike dance around the elephant in the room. Clark didn't ask to be the face of the league, but she is. And now that she's out, we're all watching to see who steps up, not just in terms of play, but in terms of narrative. Because whether we like it or not, this 2-week stretch is a case study in what the WNBA looks like without its star. And so far, the results are bleak.
See, it's no fault of Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark balls. She balled at Iowa in college. She's balled since she's been in the NBA. She came into the league last year with no break whatsoever between the college game and the pro game and did her thing. Ended up as an all-star, ended up being 4th in the league in MVP voting, was the clear winner for Rookie of the Year. No competition whatsoever in that regard when it was really all said and done. We know what she brings to the table.
The Caitlin Clark absence isn't just a break in play. It's a magnifying glass on the entire structure of the WNBA. Who's ready to step up? Who's able? So far, the answer is clear. No one. And that tells you everything about where this league actually stands in 2025. If the WNBA's future rests on one player's quad muscle, then it's not a future. It's a house of cards.
That watched this young white girl come along and take the league by storm, and they resented it because they saw the marketing prowess that she had. They ignored the fact that you got chartered flights because of this girl. They ignored the fact that ratings were going through the roof because of this girl. Instead, they resented it because they said, yo, we were doing stuff long before Caitlin Clark got here, and y'all wasn't paying attention then.
Look at the media headlines. Look at the drop in social media engagement. You'll find the same trend. When Caitlin Clark disappears, so does the conversation. This isn't just a fever problem. It's a full-blown identity crisis for the WNBA. Instead of celebrating breakout performances from other players, media outlets are scrambling to find anything remotely click-worthy. Instead of rallying behind a league-wide storyline, the W is grasping at local market scraps. Caitlin Clark isn't just the talk of the league. She's the oxygen in the room. And with her out, the air's thin.
We did see yesterday that she participated in some, but not all of practice. That was a big step forward for her. And it's really about them picking and choosing the spots where they want her to start to get incorporated into what they're doing on the practice floor to see how she's progressing. One thing that I think works in the Fever's favor this week is that they play today, as you said. They have a scheduled off day tomorrow, and then Thursday, Friday, they have 2 days of practice.
This isn't sustainable. When one player becomes a league's lifeline, it opens up a dangerous dependency, and the cracks are starting to show. Indiana didn't just lose a game, they lost the narrative, and no one, not even the league itself, is sure how to replace it. Caitlin Clark's return may be imminent, but when she does come back, the spotlight won't just be on her play. It'll be on what changed, or didn't, while she was gone. Did any new stars emerge? Did the conversation evolve? Or are we still stuck in a one-player league?
That I ripped Christy's sides for last year, she would call whistles at all the wrong times, and she would not call them at all the wrong times. Well, Stephanie White had one of those performances tonight. It is what it is. Ryan Howard didn't do much at all tonight, and we got blown out in this game. It was a horrible performance. It was. Let's just jump over here.
The WNBA is at a crossroads, and Caitlin Clark's absence is more than a subplot. It's the stress test. Every league says it wants parity, growth, and recognition. But what happens when all of that hinges on one rookie's health? That's not growth, that's fragility. And until other players, coaches, and teams can command the same spotlight, this league's success will always feel borrowed, not earned.
And guys, I don't know if you remember that not the last game, but the 2 games prior, I talked about Kelsey Mitchell's shooting then. I think it was something in the neighborhood of like 9 for her last 33 or 34. It was bad. Here we are again. Her shooting field goal percentage not good.
Here's the bottom line. If Caitlin Clark's absence creates this much chaos, then the WNBA needs to reevaluate everything, from media strategy to player development. Because right now, the blueprint is broken. And if the future of women's basketball is truly bright, it can't be built on one name alone.
And I think if she is responding well in that stretch of practice, that could go a long way to her potentially returning on Saturday against the Liberty. Keep in mind the Fever, they've been playing really well recently. They've got those two consecutive wins. Ari McDonald being on the back into the fold with them on that hardship contract extension has been really great. And for them they're really keeping a long-term approach in mind when it comes to Clark.
Caitlin Clark's absence wasn't just a few missed games. It was a warning shot. A glimpse into the uncomfortable fragility of a league caught between evolution and dependency. The WNBA has long fought for visibility, for pay equity, for respect. But ironically, its most explosive growth spurt may be tied to one rookie whose spotlight now feels both like salvation and a trap. Because here's the truth. If Clark's injury derails national conversations, tanks engagement, and exposes shallow roster depth, then what we're looking at isn't a league in ascension. It's a league in limbo. The problem isn't that Clark became the face of the W. The problem is that the league didn't prepare for what happens when the face isn't there. And in that vacuum, everything else, the product, the players, the coaches, felt exposed. This moment should be a turning point, not just for Indiana, not just for Clark, but for the entire ecosystem of women's basketball. Because it's not sustainable to build your house on one pillar. What happens if Clark's injuries linger? What happens when the novelty wears off? The W needs infrastructure, marketing, narratives, rivalries that extend beyond one name. Otherwise, we're just riding a wave with no foundation underneath. But here's the opportunity. Clark's absence gave the WNBA a rare stress test, and the results, while harsh, are clear. Fans want stars, they want personalities, they want something to believe in. So now the league has a decision to make. Double down on one player or build an era where 5 or 6 names matter just as much. The blueprint exists. It's time to cultivate rivalries with real storytelling, to elevate Angel Reese not just as a foil, but as her own cultural force, to highlight veterans who've held this league down for years and give them a seat at the media table. to turn games into events, not just scheduled broadcasts. Because if Clark's presence taught us anything, it's that spectacle drives growth. But if her absence taught us anything else, it's that relying on one spark can leave you in the dark. The league doesn't need to replace Caitlin Clark. It needs to evolve around her, to use her gravity not as a crutch, but as a launch pad. Because if the WNBA wants to turn this moment into a movement, it has to act now. Before the conversation moves on, before the novelty fades, before history repeats itself. This wasn't just a week without Clark. It was a preview of the future, and a test the league cannot afford to fail again.